Welcome to Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver with Amy Decker and Shayne Silver. Join us on each show where you're going to enjoy a lively conversation that's going to connect you to the tools and resources that you'll need to coordinate care for the seniors in your life. We are so happy that you joined us. Hi, welcome back to Senior Strategies. I am Amy Decker, and I am Director of Client Services with Senior Helpers of South Palm Beach County.
And I am Shayne Silver. I am a seniors real estate specialist, and I am a caregiver.
We hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. We went to South Carolina, which was absolutely beautiful, and we also watched the Ohio State game that lost horribly, so that kind of ruined my weekend. But for the most part, it was good. How about you?
Awesome. We hosted. I hosted my immediate family this year. We're shrinking, so we were 11, but it was nice and quiet and absolutely delicious.
Good. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Making memories. And, you know, we say 'tis the season, but very often 'tis the season can come with something negative, which could be scamming for our poor seniors.
And this is the time of year that's on the rise.
It absolutely is. And so I did a load of research on that just to kind of find out what are some of the things that are happening with our seniors and how we can help from that continuing to happen. And I think one of the number one scams that happens right now is the IRS calling them to say that they owe back taxes and that they have to pay over the phone right now. And if they don't pay, they've got somebody waiting to handcuff them and put them in jail. And you know, when you're a senior and you're living on your own and you're feeling insecure, that's a very scary thing to hear.
Yes.
But there are so many others that are out there that...
The other most common one is the grandparent one.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of times our seniors will get a call and the person on the other side of the line will say, Grandma or Grandpa, do you know who this is? And when they respond, oh, Jimmy, you know, now they have a name and they pretend to be the grandchild who needs financial assistance as an emergency, either to pay rent or to get out of jail, and they beg them not to say anything or not to tell anyone.
Right.
But they have them send money.
Yep. And then there's another one that says, oh, you've won a sweepstake, and so we're going to send you such and such, but you need to send us the taxes and what it's going to take to ship this to you. So they get their information then. And so they do it because they feel that they won something and they trust everybody.
And these are not, you know, our seniors are usually not tech savvy, and they're tugging on their heartstrings, really, is what they're doing. Right.
And another one is they'll be, being that they're not tech savvy, they will be on their computer working and they'll get a blank screen that says, you've got issues with your computer, please call this number. So they call the number and they say, oh yeah, you've got a virus, you've got things going on. Now you have to pay us so that we can unlock your computer. And they do.
And my father has fallen victim to that. There is a computer company that will actually get access to your computer to be able to log on to quote unquote fix it. But once they're in their computer, they can get to all of your passwords, all of your banking information if they bank online. It's scary.
Yeah, they said there was a gentleman from Illinois that the scammers pretended to be one of his employees, and they went in saying it was an antivirus company and let us in, you know, let us get into the system and clean everything up. He lost nearly $200,000 because they were able to get into his bank and everything else into his computer.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's so sad.
It's scary.
And you know, it's a shame that we've got that we have to deal with, because they do deal with your heartstrings. And it's not just seniors. It's you know, right now we've got PayPal, we've got
Venmo,
Venmo, any of those.
Very easily to be scammed through any of those pay apps.
And if you do use them, very often I will get, and I don't use PayPal, but I will get in my email, your PayPal account has been, you know, suspended. Go in here and give us all your information. They want us to update the whole thing. So it's not even just seniors. And so it was last week, I received an email through our corporate inquiry office that said, this woman's husband passed away, and he had this beautiful Yamaha piano that he wanted to donate to either one of our seniors or one of the assisted living communities that we work with. And I thought, that is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Tugged on my heartstrings.
But
I
But-
plastered it all over social media to share. I had it on LinkedIn. I had it on my Nextdoor app. I had it on Facebook. I sent it to my Steve DeLocke.
Right.
And so several people thought, what a great deal that was. I definitely want to get that. So here was so I thought, well, what's the scam
What's
with that?
the deal?
So when you call them, they say, well, we are in Arkansas. So if you want it, that's great. You're going to have to pay to have it shipped. So then they have the shipping company call you and they give you this astronomical price of what you're going to pay. And when you say, well, that's too much, I can't do that, they say, oh, well, we'll pay 30% of it. So give us your information. So either way, they're going to get 30% of that money.
Right.
And I had several of my friends that were looking into that. So if I would have looked at it, number one,
always look at the either email address
Yes.
that it's coming from
Yes.
or the Facebook address that it's coming from. Especially with emails or even with text messages, you can usually tell if you look at the sender. This time of year, there's also a lot of scams through FedEx and
Yep.
UPS and things like that. We have a package for you, we can't deliver. And then if you pull up the email or if you pull up the phone number it's coming from or
even
the text
the writing,
number.
sometimes even how it's written in there, it looks
But
weird.
you're not, like, if it's coming from FedEx or it's coming from UPS,
Right.
you would think that the email or the phone number would be at UPS or at FedEx, and it's mumble, jumble, jumble, jumble. You know, that is not legit. So that's always the first place to look.
Yes, and the email and the phone number for this woman that had the piano from her husband, it was not even a U.S. number. So if you looked at it, when she would call back, or when you would call that one, it would say U.S. Well, it doesn't normally do that when you call a number. So that, and it had like an extra number, and it had something odd in the email. So the biggest thing is this. So I looked at, okay, so we can give you all the problems and say,
Right.
this is what, how they're going to scam your seniors. We have to stay on top of our seniors. We have to keep the communication open. So if they feel, it always says pause before you pay. If you can tell your parents, your friends, whoever you're dealing with, pause before you pay. Call me and ask me first. Don't give out any crucial information. Never give out your Social Security. Never give out your banking information, your credit card information. If you smell a rat and it stinks, it stinks. So always remind them, pause before you pay. Call me, Mom. Before you, because I remember my mom called me and said the IRS, they've got somebody in my parking lot with handcuffs and they're going to.
What we had to do with my dad, because my dad was online spending and my mom was shopping on Home Shopping Network, and it was just adding up money they didn't have. So we went out and got them the Cash app. So if you get the Cash app, which I put on my phone, you can get an actual prepaid credit card. So I took my dad's credit card, I gave him the prepaid Cash card. It only had, I put $50 on it at a time. If they were going to dinner or I knew they were going out through the ALF or ILF, I would put more money on it. But this way, if he got scammed or if he went to buy something,
You're only going to get $50.
he was only getting $50, right? And when it needed more money or he used the money, I was able to put more on it and I controlled what was on the card.
Okay. I never heard
That
of
way,
that.
and it wasn't connected to their bank account, so there was no way for someone to suck it all out or for him to even use it all. 'Cause
Right.
in our case, he was just spending it.
Because
money he
Zelle
didn't
and
have.
Venmo are connected to your bank account.
account.
So you can lose. And that's what this poor gentleman did. He thought he was talking to an employee from his company, and he lost like over $200,000. And very often, too, they'll ask for, send us gift cards. Just send us payment of gift cards. And so they'll scramble out and buy a bunch of gift cards. Well, there's no way to trace that.
Right.
So you'll never get that back.
Yeah.
And how sad that you've got miserable human beings out there
Preying
that
on our
weigh
seniors.
on our seniors. And
Not just our seniors, they prey on everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen to any of us.
I looked at a Yamaha piano thinking what a great gift that was for somebody, and it tugged on my heartstrings. So really, we've got to be not only very careful for ourselves, because this is the season. I think very often too, I have found too, I've been watching, is the people that are even begging for money on the streets. They're getting more money right now. Holiday season is very heartwarming.
People are in a very giving state of mind.
They're in very good, so we have to be very cautious if somebody's emailing, texting, or calling, looking for money. Make sure it's legit. Make sure it's legit. Pause before you pay. So remind your parents to pause before you pay. On that fine note, we've got some great guests that are going to be coming up after the commercial break.
We have Becky Dieter from Compassionate Senior Guidance with us today.
And we have Brandon Rippo, he is an owner of Senior Helpers in the Boca Raton area, and we're going to talk to both of them on between placement in a community and then how Brandon can step in and help within a community or even in private homes, how they work together. So don't go away and come back.
Join us after the commercial.
Hi, I'm Amy Decker with Senior Helpers.
And I'm Shayne Silver, a seniors real estate specialist with the Silver team at Keller Williams.
We are so excited about a new show that we're launching, Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver.
We know that being a caregiver can be lonely and very overwhelming, and we want to help.
And so we hope to empower you with resources and tools that you probably didn't even know existed.
We'll be having some great conversations with people and companies you probably never knew existed and never knew you needed.
We just can't wait for you to join us.
Come join us for some laughs and fun as we give you some tools to use.
See you soon.
Welcome to Allegro Boynton Beach, the epitome of luxury senior living. Discover a lifestyle free from maintenance worries, or experience gentle support tailored to your daily needs. Choose from our exclusive offerings of independent living, assisted living, and memory care, each designed to provide a personalized experience of utmost comfort and care. Indulge in a maintenance-free retirement or embrace the support you deserve. Surrounded by the finest amenities and compassionate staff. At Allegro Boynton Beach, luxury meets a vibrant community where every moment is filled with joy, purpose, and peace of mind. Experience luxury senior living at its finest. Contact us today to schedule your visit and discover the unmatched lifestyle awaiting you at Allegro Boynton Beach.
You love your mom and dad, and they've always been there for you, always taken care of you. But now they could use a hand, and sometimes more help than you can provide. Thankfully, they're Senior Helpers, experts in Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's care. We can help you transition from a hospital stay to home, or just help your loved one with assistance with their everyday needs. Visit seniorhelpers.com to learn more. Discover why Senior Helpers is senior care, only better.
Are you considering selling your home? Are you considering downsizing? Are you considering a transition to an independent or assisted living community? Are you considering moving to be closer to your family? Do you need a home more conducive to aging in place? If so, you want to talk to Shayne Silver, co-host of Senior Strategies and Senior Real Estate Specialist. Shayne and her real estate team are extremely knowledgeable and experienced when it comes to helping seniors and their families make life's important transitions. Shayne will guide you every step of the way, making the transition as stress-free as possible. To schedule a no-obligation consultation, call 561-735-3030.
Welcome back to Senior Strategies with Amy and Shayne. Coming up next are more tools and resources you will need to make your journey of caregiving a little easier. For more information or to be a guest on the show, please contact us at 561-800-6654. And now, on with the show.
Welcome back to Senior Strategies. Thank you so much for joining us. Back again after the commercial break. We are going to talk to right now Becky Dieter with Compassionate Senior Guidance. Welcome, Becky. Thank you for being here with us today. Please tell our listeners and our audience who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me today. So I am the owner and senior living advisor for Compassionate Senior Guidance. And my journey is a little bit different in terms of coming into this. I was actually a lawyer and an HR director, also certified in life coaching, and got into this. It's a very typical Florida story. My parents were in Sarasota. There were 5 kids, and nobody lived in Florida, of course, the way things are these days. So my dad had congestive heart failure and started going through a series of surgeries, culminating in breaking his hip, which we all know is not a good thing for a senior at 86 years old. My dad was 6'3" and my mom 5'4", so not the best caregiving dynamics.
Yeah.
So they needed some help. So I ended up quitting my job, becoming a caregiver, traveling back and forth. I was living in Colorado at the time, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, providing personal care myself down to toileting and anything that they needed. Brought in hospice, did POAs, brought in home health, learned about long-term care insurance.
Wow.
Wow.
No idea what I was doing.
That's a lot.
That's
a lot.
Yes, and it's what our families face. You're a good lawyer, you're a good HR director, you're good at your job, and then you're thrown into this arena that you have no clue.
You know nothing about, and you have to learn completely something different that, no offense, half the time makes no sense. Medicare, Medicaid, all of this stuff is so complicated.
Exactly. So that's where I was. After about 3 months, my dad passed away.
Oh.
And then down the road, my mom decided to move back to Maryland, where I'm from, where there was family, and move into independent living. So we went through selling, downsizing, which is very difficult for a senior when their partner is gone.
Right.
They no longer have that buddy saying, it's going to be okay.
That little support
it's going to be
system.
fine. Exactly. And that was something I had to learn from going through this with my mom, because she depended on me and my sibling. So she moved to independent living, where she has been for over 7 years and done very well. So then I had other relatives, and that's kind of what brought me to this industry. Was I felt this need to help guide families through what I had gone through. And some of that is that coaching background, and that listening and helping them understand this is a journey and how to go through the journey. So I approach placement a little differently, in that I see it as a journey, and I see it as an opportunity not only to just help the senior, but also to help the family or the caregiver or the spouse, whoever's going through
more
it.
so the family. I
Yeah.
think almost that's more supportive to the family. The
Right.
senior, wherever they go, they're going to end up going, and they're going to transition in there, and it's the families that have to make that decision, that emotional decision of where to put their loved one.
Right.
Absolutely.
And having been through it, not only you're guiding them, but you're guiding them from experience.
Right.
Right.
Right? You've been in their shoes, you know what it feels like and how hard these conversations are to have sometimes.
Right. And I tell my families, you know, honestly, the loved one is probably going to transition more quickly than you.
Absolutely.
And you see that happen.
Right.
Yep.
So it's about how to help them with the journey, how to help them have that conversation with mom or dad, or mom and dad, because that's difficult.
Right. So what are some of the things that you take into consideration when looking for a specific community for that person?
A few things. Number one is their care needs. What are their care needs? What do they really need help with? And that's where people get confused, because they hear so many things. Oh, they're telling me they need skilled nursing, and they can't do this and can't do that. So it's really breaking down, what do they really need help with? Do they need help with toileting? Do they need help with bathing? What does that look like? So really taking the time to drill down on their care needs. Budget's important. The last thing you want to do is show people places they can't afford.
Right.
They
Budget's
fall in
huge.
love.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've got to be conscious, and geographic.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, that's like Shayne with real estate.
Yeah.
You have to, people usually have to be pre-qualified to say, this is what we can afford. You're going to show them $1 million homes, but they can only afford. So true. Budget's
Right.
huge.
Budget's
They'd love
big, and
to say.
location,
And
especially
location.
if
right.
they have family. You know, I wanted my parents to be within a certain amount of time so that I
Right.
could get there regularly. But I want to talk a little bit about that conversation and how the family has that conversation with their loved one who maybe doesn't want to make that transition.
wants to stay at home.
You know, that just happened today. I had a friend broach me, and she said, you know, I think it's ready. I think it's time. Her father has been living with her, and I think it's time that I can't care for him as he needs, and we need to make that transition. And that's a really hard conversation to have between the family members and with the family members and the loved one. So how do you broach that conversation? That's a really tough conversation.
It absolutely is. And behind all of that, the family really wants their loved one to buy in, right? They want them to say, yay, I want to move.
Of course.
And I try to let them know that's probably not going to happen. They're not going to be doing backflips to move, okay?
No.
Because I describe it like this. Imagine going into that cocktail party or that networking meeting and you walk in and you don't know a soul. How do you feel? That's exactly what they're afraid of going into a community. So we have to, first of all, validate and recognize that this is a big deal. This is a big transition, and we can't poo-poo whatever their concerns or their fears are.
And the pluses of moving into a community, so many of them want to age at home. I mean, we had a gentleman that he kept his wife at home for 3 years, and she had Parkinson's, she had Lewy body, and he kept her at home because he felt that's where she needed to be, but she ended up flourishing once she got into a community because there were activities and things to do. And so sure, you can age at home because that's where people want to do it, but really when you get into a community with lots of things going on, whole different thing.
I liken it to when I sent my daughter to preschool, right? I thought I would keep her home. You know, once she was a baby and she was little, I thought I would keep her home for years until she was ready to go to kindergarten.
Right.
And my mother-in-law at the time watched her a few days a week. And I came home sick from work one day and I saw that they were sitting in front of the TV all day, right? And it was at that point where I realized, you know, maybe bringing her to a preschool where there are professionals who know how to teach them and deal with them, and she can learn, you know, how to share and how to deal with other kids. I had no other kids in the house.
Right.
I kind of liken it to that. The impetus for me moving my parents was they were home alone, and at that point they couldn't drive. So what quality of life did they have sitting home alone?
Right.
They needed the socialization, and that first impetus to move was really for the socialization, so that they weren't home alone all the time.
That is huge.
And that's important in terms of focusing on the positives, because what we see sometimes is the families will be, well, you know you can't cook anymore, and you know you can't do this anymore, and you know this is hard for you, and all those negative things aren't going to make somebody want to move.
Right.
So it's about finding what are those things that, hey mom, there are going to be some Mahjong games and you love to play Mahjong. Dad, there's this great veterans group there. Wouldn't it be nice to sit around with the guys and talk about things? Or there's going to be restaurant style dining and you don't have to cook anymore and somebody's going to serve you. So what are those positive things and the socialization that folks are going to gain as opposed to you can't do this, you can't do that. And choosing your words carefully. One of my big pet peeves is we don't call it a facility, we call it a community, which is what it is.
They call the facility, I think, an F word now. If you say facility, it's called like an F word that you have to, it's got to be looked at as a community.
Right. It's a community of people living together, eating together, socializing together. Because it conjures up that image as soon as you say facility and you're going to have a room instead of an apartment. People start thinking skilled nursing and nursing home. And understandably, that's not where they want to go.
No.
So we have to use the right words in order to help them see things differently and not have that negative image about it. So that's really important.
It is, because, you know, and I've said this before, you know, you're born to say, I can't wait till I'm 16. I can't wait till I'm 18. I can't wait till I'm 21.
Can't wait till I drive.
I can't wait to get a job. I can't wait to get married and have a job and take care of my family and then as you get older, you've lost your driving responsibilities. You're no longer working anymore. Now you've got somebody coming in helping your wife. So you get up in the morning and you've lost your purpose.
Right.
Everybody needs a purpose, whatever it is. So if moving into a community gives you a purpose of, I have to be available at 11 in the morning to do bingo, I've got to be there for lunch, I've got a men's club to play pool at such and such a time, then that's what it is. But everyone needs a purpose, and sometimes just staying at home, those purposes are gone. And your kids love to remind you of that. That's the sad thing. So.
And the communities can help with that. I have a gentleman that has Alzheimer's, and I actually have a couple gentlemen that have this same habit of going out and picking up palm fronds out of the backyard. They'll actually go in neighbors' yards and pull them up, and they're cleaning up the yard and everything. Well, when we toured the memory care communities, we mentioned that and they said, great, we'll have him help clean up out there. Exactly.
Good.
He's got a purpose. So understanding those things about the seniors, when I talk to them with the family, helps me help the community find ways to help them assimilate.
You find out what their interests are.
Exactly.
And then once you move into a community, then very often they will have you move into independent. So sometimes maybe you need to move into an assisted living, but they don't have anything available. So they'll move you into independent living. And then that's when Brandon Rippo will come into the picture, because then he can bring his services through Senior Helpers, come in, they can move them into an independent living situation. And now Brandon and his company can work with, whether it's medication management, whether it's an extra bath that community doesn't offer. Very often it's just to get them to transition into the building to go to the different activities that are going on. So now we're going to talk to Brandon, with the owner of Senior Helpers, and we're going to talk about more how he got into what he's doing and what his interests were before that, and how he is where he is
How he
today.
can help with that transition
That's right.
as
Welcome,
well.
Brandon.
Welcome, Brandon.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Well, first, again, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I got into this by accident, quite honestly. I was in the hospitality industry and was just looking for a little bit better lifestyle than what I was then, being in a restaurant till 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it turned out that there was a food service director position open in a building. I went in, applied for it, and before I walked out of the office, I was offered the job as a food service director in a senior living property. So it was new to me, but I certainly enjoyed the hospitality piece, and it was a different aspect of dealing with the same clientele, day in and day out, as opposed to trying to get that repeat guest in a restaurant. So my philosophy is everything happens for a reason, and it just kind of grew from there. I fell in love with the industry, fell in love with the business, and worked my way through to the point where I was promoted into a regional director of operations for the food side of things, and I was overseeing 21 properties and their food service services for all of them. And then decided that I wanted to take a stab at running properties. So I became an executive director and ran some large properties and ran every single neighborhood from independent living to assisted living, memory care, as well as skilled nursing and rehab. So it was really
So you got every aspect of it.
Yep,
So you've
I've
been
done
in every
aspect.
single position possible.
Yes.
What was your
Definitely.
favorite?
My favorite was probably running just the independent and the assisted living together, just because there was a lot more active seniors that were in the buildings. It was, the independent living side was very large. We had well over 250 apartments in this one building. And it was fun because it was spread out over a campus of around 14 acres. There was a lot of activity going on between the pool area, shuffleboard, then we had our activities that were going on a regular basis. Inside, then of course dining, which is a passion of mine, dealing with food, trying to make sure that we brought a better meal to everybody each and every day, and we were serving multiple meals, obviously 3 meals a day with snacks, and then obviously on the independent side it was a little bit different.
So then you went from being an executive director, working with all the buildings, you really got to see the ins and outs of what the strengths and weaknesses were. What then caused you to say, okay, now I would like to not be part of the building, but assist this building with the services of Senior Helpers?
So this was the best part about how I got to where I am now. In one of these properties, there was a different franchisee for Senior Helpers that was actually already in the building and operating. And I really, really liked the blueprint of the way it operated, and we were a cohesive team. We utilized each other, we referred to them, they referred to us, and all of my residents at that particular building were being well taken care of. They were answering all of our lifeline calls, so if there was ever an issue overnight, Senior Helpers was there to answer every one of those calls, and then they did a great job with communicating with us as far as the management team, how things were, what was going on, if we needed to call 911. Get people, to the specific areas where they needed to be, and really made sure that everybody was taken care of. And that blueprint of what they did, to me, I saw a serious future in that. So as the pandemic hit, it was very rough on senior living properties. It took a toll on everybody, including myself. It took a major toll on just the overall lifestyle that I had. It took a toll on my own health, where I was losing weight because of the stress of, worrying about how I was going to keep this out of the building that I was running at the time. I was very proud of the fact that for almost an entire year, we kept it out on the resident side. Staff was a little bit different, but it really took a toll. Had a conversation with my family, and they just said, listen, we're in a great spot right now. Let's take some time off, try to recruit yourself, you know,
Time
get
to
that
make a
breather,
change.
Yeah.
right? Get
Yeah.
that breather
Yep.
that you need to relax a little bit and
Right.
not be stressed out all the time. So we did that. I made that decision, took a little time off, and then when the opportunity came about to purchase a senior living or a senior helpers territory, I didn't hesitate. I jumped. I already knew the business. I knew a lot of the players involved already. I had met, you know, people on the corporate side of things. So for me, the transition was very easy in learning what and how to do it the right way.
So, what makes you stand out above and beyond other? Because there is a difference in registries, and I think a lot of people don't know what that is. So, tell us what the difference is between an agency and a registry, because that and hand in hand then with Becky too. Then when she goes into buildings, very often they're going to want to know where the extra
Right,
help is coming
coming
from.
from.
So, what is the difference between an agency and a registry?
Sure, and you know, you're hitting the nail on the head, Amy, because I speak to this every time I'm sitting in front of a potential client or I'm on the phone with them.
'Cause most don't
you know,
know.
taking an inquiry. And a registry is very different than what an agency is. And a registry sends independent contractors into somebody's home or into a senior living community. That independent contractor has to carry their own general liability insurance. Here in South Florida, I'm going to tell you from my experience as an executive director in multiple buildings and part of a large senior living company at one point in time, those independent contractors don't carry their insurance like they're supposed to. So it puts the client at serious risk when that independent contractor shows up and does work in their home. God forbid something happens, they could potentially sue the client because they are an independent contractor. They do not work for the actual registry that sent them in there. As senior helpers, as a full-fledged agency, we take care of all of that. We're covering the general liability and the workers' comp. We take care of the taxes and the payroll taxes on each individual staff member because they are a full W-2 employee that works for the actual company. Big difference between registry and agency.
So it's level 2 background check, fingerprinting,
Oh yes, that's
drug
part of it.
testing,
Oh yeah.
impeccable driving record. So it's just above and beyond. They have to come in, and I know in our office, I'm sure yours is the same. We make them take if they're a CNA, which is a certified nursing assistant, or an HHA, which is a home health assistant. We make them sit down and retake that test all over again in the back.
So
And we have found like 70% fail because they really don't know. And then we're like, well, we're not going to even interview, so pass on.
So every agency or every office runs, you know, a little bit differently.
Yeah.
The way my office operates, the way we do it through our applicant tracking system is once somebody applies, they get a pre-screen survey as soon as they apply directly to their email. They have to pass that pre-screen survey first. Then they have to go through a rigorous interview process between multiple people before it gets to me as the owner, and I have the final say so. So not only do we send out a competency test that is the Agency for Home Care Administration, which governs us and oversees our license, that particular test they take before they even get an interview with us to make sure that they are eligible to come
Right.
work with us as a home health aide or a certified nursing assistant.
I think that's so important. You know, we've talked on here a lot with a lot of different attorneys, and we always talk about don't get your legal documents online. Seek a professional. And this is another place. Please, you might think that their services are expensive, but there's a reason, right? You want to make sure who's coming into your home and who's caring for your loved one is legitimately the right person and is safe and is going to take care of them and is licensed and insured and all those wonderful things, right? So this is another place where, please, who you hire matters. Who you hire matters.
Yep. And I think Senior Helpers, and it's one of the only agencies, they also put together a personal profile. Tell us about that.
So the personal profile is something that, again, Senior Helpers is one of the only ones that do these things. Part of that process, again, I like it because it just takes that extra step in knowing who you're dealing with. I always try to tell people that we are looking for higher character and morally sound individuals. That profile helps us weed out individuals that just don't fit the bill for who we want to hire.
And that's most important. And I think everybody, when they get to the point of where families are talking together and saying, this is what we need to do, we've got to bring somebody into the home, it's a family decision. And so it's a very intimate, it's a very emotional thing. And after the commercial, we're going to talk about then how Brandon can bring his business into communities that Becky can encourage her clients to go into, and how we can all work together and make this happen and an easy transition.
We talk all the time about circle of care, and these are people to include in your circle of care when you're caring for a loved one. Amy and I have said many times the reason we started this show is because we want our caregivers out there and our seniors to know that these resources exist, that there are things out there and people out there that can help you on your journey. Really quick before we go to a commercial, Brandon, will you give us the phone number or how our listeners can reach you?
Sure. My office is in the Boca Raton area and the North Broward area, and our local phone number is 561-409-7577.
Great. And Becky, how can our viewers reach you?
My number is 561-629-9500.
Wonderful. And we'll be back after this commercial. Thank you. Hi, I'm Amy Decker with Senior Helpers.
And I'm Shayne Silver, a seniors real estate specialist with the Silver team at Keller Williams.
We are so excited about a new show that we're launching, Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver.
We know that being a caregiver can be lonely and very overwhelming, and we want to help.
And so we hope to empower you with resources and tools that you probably didn't even know existed.
We'll be having some great conversations with people and companies you probably never knew existed and never knew you needed.
We just can't wait for you to join us.
Come join us for some laughs and fun as we give you some tools to use.
See you soon.
Welcome to Allegro Boynton Beach, the epitome of luxury senior living. Discover a lifestyle free from maintenance worries, or experience gentle support tailored to your daily needs. Choose from our exclusive offerings of independent living, assisted living, and memory care, each designed to provide a personalized experience of utmost comfort and care. Indulge in a maintenance-free retirement or embrace the support you deserve. Surrounded by the finest amenities and compassionate staff. At Allegro Boynton Beach, luxury meets a vibrant community where every moment is filled with joy, purpose, and peace of mind. Experience luxury senior living at its finest. Contact us today to schedule your visit and discover the unmatched lifestyle awaiting you at Allegro Boynton Beach.
You love your mom and dad, and they've always been there for you, always taken care of you. But now they could use a hand, and sometimes more help than you can provide. Thankfully, there's Senior Helpers, experts in Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's care. We can help you transition from a hospital stay to home, or just help your loved one with assistance with their everyday needs. Visit seniorhelpers.com to learn more. Discover why Senior Helpers is senior care, only better.
Are you considering selling your home? Are you considering downsizing? Are you considering a transition to an independent or assisted living community? Are you considering moving to be closer to your family? Do you need a home more conducive to aging in place? If so, you want to talk to Shayne Silver, co-host of Senior Strategies and Senior Real Estate Specialist. Shayne and her real estate team are extremely knowledgeable and experienced when it comes to helping seniors and their families make life's important transitions. Shayne will guide you every step of the way, making the transition as stress-free as possible. To schedule a no-obligation consultation, call 561-735-3030.
Welcome back to Senior Strategies with Amy and Shayne. Coming up next are more tools and resources you will need to make your journey of caregiving a little easier. For more information or to be a guest on the show, please contact us at 561-800-6654. And now, on with the show.
Hi, welcome back to the show. We've got some great guests that we're going to talk a little bit more about how to make that perfect
transition.
placement and transition for your loved one. And then once you get into that community, if they need a little bit more care, depending on their level of care, when do you use an agency then to help out a little bit? So we have Brandon Rippo, we have Becky Dieter, and we're going to talk a little bit more about just maybe Becky, how do you make your decisions? Like if very often you've got somebody that's got to move into assisted living, but they may not have room, so they're going to put them in independent living, and then you have to kind of choose where they get that extra help.
Exactly. When we need to move somebody immediately and there's just not space in the assisted living, in the community they really want to, then we're going to try and move them into independent living and bring in a home health aide if they don't already have one. Sometimes I face people that already have aides, and I'm always going to recommend that they transition with that aide and they don't stop it immediately, because that's that familiar face that can help them
Absolutely.
transition.
Right.
And the communities now, there was a time communities didn't like that so much, but now they realize the value of having that aide there to help them transition. And then if they want to gradually pull back, they can do
it's
that.
a little hand holding.
Exactly. There are also times that maybe they need somebody there at night. They need that one-on-one time at night because they're up at night.
Right.
And so that's something that a community can't provide, is that one-on-one nighttime care. So there are definitely times that it's helpful to work with a home health agency to provide that kind of extra assistance, even though they're moving.
And even if they're not, maybe that initial transition, something could happen and maybe they end up in the hospital and now they're in a rehab. And now they've been in a rehab for 3 months or 6 weeks or whatever it is. Once they get back to their community, their brain's a snow globe, because the nurses are coming in all night long and they're checking on them and they're making sure. So now they've got to get used to another sleep schedule. They may be up all night again. So again, that's when you would want to get an agency in place.
Even sometimes when someone's transitioning back to a community from a rehab center, sometimes we don't know exactly what they need, and that might be a good time to have some extra help on hand. I'm sure Brandon can talk to that, again, because we don't know what
you don't know until you know, right?
You
don't know until you know.
One of the things that I love about doing what I'm doing is I do have a unique perspective from both sides, as running senior living properties and doing home care. I would say whatever transition is, I don't care if it's independent living, skilled nursing, assisted living, or memory care. Anytime you can have an extra set of hands as far as an aide is concerned, I 100% recommend doing that, because it's going to make that transition easier for the resident, which is the most important piece here. And for whether it's senior helpers or another agency that's out there, I mean, there are some agencies that are in buildings that will actually offer a concierge service where they offer a certain amount of hours for free. Take advantage of it every single time you can, and work with them as best as you can, because whatever little bit of extra help that they can get, or that extra set of eyes, is always going to be beneficial.
Because what's the number one issue? What is the number one alert disaster that can happen when you've got somebody, whether they've come home from rehab or hospital or a fall?
A fall?
That's
fear.
Even within buildings, they get
Yeah.
they get tagged for falls. They get tagged for. So I think keeping our loved ones from falling and having accidents while they're within the community, that is the biggest reason of getting somebody else there to get them up through the night.
Sure. And whatever diagnosis they may have, I mean, if there's just even the slightest bouts of confusion when somebody wakes up somewhere they don't know where they are, and you do have that extra set of eyes that's there and helping hands, it's just going to make that transition that much easier.
And let's face it, rehab, if you're in there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're going to get up in the middle of the night in your room again, and I have no idea where you are.
Have no idea where you are, and you might, the individual, the senior, might get up to go to the bathroom or whatever, and forget that they need a cane or they need a walker, and try to go, and that's all it takes.
And you have to educate the family sometimes, because they don't understand that whether it's skilled nursing, whether it's assisted, memory, it's never going to be one-on-one care.
Right.
And I'm always very clear with my families, because I want the right expectation.
Right.
It's not going to be one-on-one care. If you want one-on-one care, we need to bring in help.
Yes, and I reiterate that 100%, and that's the big misconception in any senior living community, whether, again, assisted living, skilled nursing. Those are the two biggest misconceptions that are out there, where families think that there is this one-on-one care. There is never one-on-one care
Nope.
in assisted living, memory care, or skilled nursing. That's
Or
why,
rehab, or the
rehab,
hospital,
right, correct.
wherever they
There's-
go,
Right.
wherever they go.
Correct.
And so very often they'll say, okay, well, so we don't need you anymore because, you know, my dad was an assisted, or my dad was an independent. Now he's moving into assisted. So now we're going to pay that extra level of care so we don't need you any longer. Again, that if they're at a fall risk, it's not going to keep them from falling.
Correct.
That's not going to
There's
keep
still
them from
not going to be
falling.
someone there 24/7.
No.
Those
No.
aides and nurses still have to take care of everyone on the floor or everyone in the building.
And there is a staffing ratio for these buildings, and that's state mandated. But when you really look at where assisted living is these days, or memory care for those two specifically, the acuity levels are a lot higher these days. You know, your ALF is typically a pseudo-skilled, and you know, memory care, it takes a lot of hands on deck to make sure that everybody's getting the care that they need. Those staffing ratios aren't the greatest,
Right.
You know, especially when you have people that are non-weight bearing, can't transfer, you know, or need help to toilet themselves or bathe themselves, or whatever. It takes a while to get that stuff done on a daily
Yes.
basis.
Yep.
So when you don't have somebody at the ready, they could be waiting
Yeah.
20 minutes,
Absolutely.
40 minutes,
And
Yeah.
they may
an
not be
hour.
able to wait. They may not be able to wait.
You might not be getting, you know, your loved one might not be getting their shower at 9 a.m. They may be getting their shower at 3 in the afternoon or after dinner, or you don't know.
Yeah.
Or they don't know they're up at night. I have a gentleman right now that he gets up at night because he has to go to the bathroom, but he doesn't always know where the bathroom is.
Aw.
And so he goes other places. And that's
Okay.
where having somebody pushing a button isn't going to help him. And he's not
directing
going to know
him
to
to
push
go.
it.
Right.
Exactly. So he needs help
Right.
with
Right.
somebody during the night
And those
to help
yeah.
him with those things.
Those staffing ratios overnight are drastically diminished
Yes.
compared to during the day, because
Absolutely.
typically everybody is sleeping, but if somebody does push a help button or whatever you want to call it, you know, it could still be 10, 15 minutes before they get to
Sure,
that apartment
sure.
or that room,
Right.
because they're helping somebody else at that particular time.
And you have to admit, the family dynamics probably has to be the biggest challenge. I know that is with me. So we may paint a picture of where this person is going to go and where they're going to be the happiest, but now you've got to deal with the siblings and the aunts and the uncles and
Or
the
the
guardian. and
spouse.
or the spouse. So family dynamics probably is one of the biggest challenges, is getting them to agree, so then we can find the perfect place for their
Right.
loved one.
Definitely. And there's always an assessment period, however you want to look at it. You try something, or you try to convince them, hey, let's try it this way because this is what's best for mom or dad.
Right.
Then we can revisit this in 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Right.
30 days, you know, and then make an adjustment based on that. But during this period, this is the most important thing that needs to happen now.
Right. Safety, and I know with senior helpers too. I know that safety and their health and their care is most important, but it's also good to give them an experience, give them a purpose, give them something that's going to give them a memory. So whether it's, you know, going in and celebrating their birthday, or going in and commemorating, maybe it's 2 years that they've been in this community. It's just ways of making them feel important and loved. Very often they're leaving the home that they love. They don't want to have to go away from that. It's got memories to them. Now they've got to move into a place that's a studio.
But introducing them to other people in the
Yes.
community so they get to
Right.
know. We know from our support group that that's a really big indicator of new residents moving in, and their success and their comfort level is being introduced to other people in the community who may be experiencing the same thing,
Right.
and going through the same thing. And I want to say that even though these communities are not one-on-one, like Amy had mentioned before, she had a client who had decided to keep their loved one at home with the one-on-one care, and then realized they still weren't getting what they needed.
Right.
So it's really, and I'm sure Becky can talk to this, and Brandon too, it's really very specific to your loved one and to the one you're caring for, right? Whether you want a big facility, a small facility, how active do they want to be? Do they want to be home? Do they want to be in a community? So there's a lot to go into making the decision. And I just want the caregivers and the family and the me's, the adult children, the sandwich generation, to understand that there's a lot that goes into it. But quite often it's really the best for you and your loved one. A lot of guilt comes with making this decision. We've talked about that a lot. A lot of guilt comes from not being able to continue to care for your loved one, but there comes a point where the
It's the best.
professionals really know best.
Right.
And I know with senior helpers that you guys are trained and train your staff specifically to know what to do in these situations, to know what to do when someone doesn't want to shower, or to know when to do when someone loses their continence. And I know that Becky's been through it, and there really are professionals out there that understand what you're going through. You are not alone. You are not the first one to ever experience this, and you're not going to be the last one. So please use these resources that are available to you.
Brandon, what would you say would be the number one thing that you could share with us when choosing an agency? What is something that puts you above and beyond that you do differently, or the support that you get that they would want to choose you over somebody else?
Okay, that's great. So when I, again, either hopefully sitting in front of a potential client, one of the things we talk about is matching personalities with the caregiver, which is extremely important. I am dealing with a potential client right now who has got severe depression to the point where when I go into a potential client's home, typically I have to raise an octave up because they can't hear me. It is the complete opposite. This is somebody who is a little bit younger. I have to take it not one but 2 octaves down because she just can't stand the loudness of my voice, which probably my wife and kids will tell you the same thing. But that being said, every individual is so different. So when you are sitting there looking at their symptoms, what they're dealing with on a daily basis, to try and match a caregiver up with them that's going to fit their personality best is one of the differentiators that I think that we do. I will sit there, I'm the one that's making the schedule, I'm the one that knows all my caregivers as I'm the last person to sign off on hiring them, and when they go through our orientation, it's 2 days of orientation with us. It's making sure that they understand our customer service is our number one priority, and then we talk about a number of different things. Customer service, hospitality, it's not what you say but how you say it. Everybody's heard that cliche. Attention to detail, sense of urgency to make sure we're getting things done, and communication. Those 5 things are what I ask our staff to focus on each and every day with every one of our clients, and it is going to make things that much better for everybody in the long run. The best feeling is when I get a call from a family member or from the client that says, this caregiver is outstanding. We want this person back as much as we possibly can.
We want them to become a family member.
Absolutely.
Right.
And to build that relationship up, and part of what Senior Helpers does, and Amy, you know this, our life profile is a predictive analytic assessment tool that works great.
Yes.
It has the quality of life calendar, and it's all about leisure activities with our clients. They can pick and choose from 1 to almost 100 different things that they like to do on a daily basis, and then we can check off to make sure that our caregiver is engaging with them on those leisure activities and not solely focused on the activities of daily living.
Right. That's wonderful. And so again, what is the best number that they can get you? So if somebody needs to get going on it right away, how can they call you?
Best number to get us is our local number is 561-409-7577.
And Becky, what about
Becky,
you? So if there's something that they really wanted to focus on with you, what would that be?
I would say something that differentiates me is I do it from the heart. It's about the family, it's about the journey, it's not just about the placement. I really care about their journey and helping them through the journey. I think that's important.
And is there something that maybe the families or the loved ones don't ask that they should when they're looking for a community?
I would say longevity of staff sometimes is something that people don't ask about.
That's huge.
That's a big predictor. That's a
so
great
if you
one.
know there's
That
a
is great
revolving
one.
door through their director's department, there's a reason there's a revolving door.
Right.
That's a really good one,
Yeah,
actually.
it's important for them
That
to
is a
ask
good
about
one.
the longevity of staff, definitely.
I would add to
Yes.
that by saying it's not just the staff. I would look at the management team as well to see how long they've been there.
Absolutely. That's a great
That's a
one.
good one.
And Becky, how do they get in touch with you?
So my number is 561-629-9500.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys both for being here today. We really, really appreciate your time. I hope our listeners and our viewers learned something new today. We hope we introduced you to a resource you didn't know was there, and we hope you use it.
And if you have any questions or you would like to get in contact with our guests this evening, you can reach out to us at
Our email seniorstrategies.pb@gmail.com, or our phone number,
which is 561-800-6654. But we're also on Instagram,
Facebook,
we have a YouTube
and
channel,
YouTube.
and our Facebook. So any of those you can message us. There might be a topic that you'd like to hear more about. You may have questions for our guests this evening. So wherever it is, we appreciate you reaching out to us, and we're so happy that Brandon and Becky could meet with us today. This is the reason that we have the show. These are the tools and strategies that we'd like to share with you, because there's so many things though going into the journey you don't know anything about.
I know,
And that's what they can
especially
help
when
you
you're
with.
new to this and you're just starting. And we discussed this, I think, on our last episode. Quite often, you might not even realize that you are a caregiver.
Right. And so we offer a caregiver support group at Allegro on Hagen Ranch in Boynton Beach every third Thursday of the month at 3 o'clock. We'd love for you to join us. But in the meantime, we hope you come back and see us again. We've got a great show coming up next. And thanks again for viewing with us today.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today on Senior Strategies. We hope that you found the tools and the strategies that we offered you beneficial for your journey as a caregiver. We want you to leave today feeling empowered and supported.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for upcoming shows and events. For more information, to schedule a consultation, or to join a support group, please contact us at 561-800-6654.
And remember the strategies
And tools you can use
to make your journey easier.